guys, I hope your week is going well. So it's the end of the day here and I'm about ready to go to the gym, but thought I would sit down and film a video for you guys talking about closed comedones. It's something you guys asked me a fair amount about, so I thought I would do a video on it talking about what they are and go over what sort of ingredients there are and stuff over the counter that can help close comedones. Closed comedones are skin lesions that are pretty common in dermatology. They present as skin-colored bumps, most often on the face. And on the face, they most often are on the forehead. They can also be on the cheeks, around the chin. And they can be present by themselves, or more often they are seen in combination with other skin lesions of a very, very, very common skin disease in dermatology across the world, and that is acne. In addition to closed comedones, acne also has open comedones. Closed comedones are more commonly referred to as whiteheads, and open comedones are commonly referred to as blackheads. I'll describe a little bit in a minute what those are and what the differences are. But in acne, you also can have red bumps, cysts, nodules, and discoloration from healing spots. So acne has a variety of lesions. And closed comedones, like I said, can occur by themselves in acne, closed and open comedones, in which case that type of acne is a subtype called comedonal acne. So what is a closed comedone? Well, what it is if you can imagine your pore as a flower vase, a closed comedone happens when the lining of that pore, the cells lining that pore, that vase stem, they proliferate a little bit too quickly, and so they create a bottleneck phenomenon to obstruct some of the outflow of sebum. Because underneath that little plug is your oil gland, which drains into the flower vase. But when there is a little beginning formation of a comedone or a microcomedone, that begins to obstruct the outflow of sebum and oil. So you get trapping of sticky skin cells and grease, sebum. And so what you then see is a bump. You see a visible bump on the skin that is called a closed comedone. And that is the very, very preliminary lesion of acne, actually. When that comedone surfaces, the contents of that comedone, the plugged up sticky keratin and oil, then becomes exposed to air, and the pigment in those sticky skin cells oxidizes, and that is what appears as a blackhead. It is a common misconception that plugged up pores are impacted with dirt and makeup and gunk that you're putting on your face. Yes, to a certain extent, that stuff definitely can exacerbate acne and exacerbate comedonal acne and the formation of comedones for sure, but it is not the underlying pathobiology of comedone formation. The underlying problem is in the cells that line the vase, that line the pore outshoot, proliferate too quickly, become very sticky, and then that sebum and oil gets trapped in there. They're actually called whiteheads, and open comedones, the ones that oxidize and turn black, are called blackheads. I tell you guys this because a lot of the times patients will refer to whiteheads as something different. Some people, in layman's terms, think that a whitehead is something that is actually a pustule. Pustule is different from a comedone. I'll attempt to put a photograph here for you guys. But a pustule is a totally different lesion. It is a result of the accumulation of the debris of an inflammatory cell called a neutrophil. In acne, you can have pustules, but pustule is not the same thing as whitehead. A whitehead is a closed comedone. The reason why distinguishing the two lesions, even though they both occur in acne, is important is that the comedone is the starting point. It is that plugged up pore with the sticky keratinocytes, the sticky skin cells plugged up underneath there. But as that bottleneck becomes narrower and narrower, and that plug forms and all that oil is being trapped under there, eventually that kind of ruptures, and in doing so releases some of that keratin, which your immune system goes, oh heck no. your immune system rushes in an effort to clean that mess up underneath your skin. And there's a cell in the immune system called the neutrophil who comes in and chews up a lot of that debris and kind of spits it out into what is called pus, or neutrophilic debris. And so that then manifests as a pustule. So they're very different skin lesions. But why do comedones form? Bad luck? A lot of it has to do with, unfortunately, as everything in life, your genetics. So you can blame your parents for comedone formation if you like. But also there is a hormone that both men and women make called dihydrotestosterone locally in the skin, and that actually has specific little receptors in the oil gland that amp up oil production. The levels of this hormone increase around the time of puberty, and that is why acne tends to first have its onset in puberty. But these hormones are present to varying degrees throughout our lifespan. In women, in particular, they can spike around the menstrual cycle. They can also spike around pregnancy. They can also spike when you start and stop different birth control pills. And around the menopause time, they also can increase, which is why you get adult onset acne much of the time. Also, people who have a tendency to make closed comedones, their oil, their sebum, has less of a compound known as linoleate, which is a salt of the essential fatty acid linoleic acid, and that makes the sebum and the plugged up keratinocytes more scaly, and it makes them more prone to comedone formation. The skin of individuals predisposed to comedone formation, also the skin barrier is very impaired because they don't have as robust a essential fatty acid milieu in their oil as non-acne afflicted individuals. And that impaired skin barrier that results makes them more sensitive to things that come in contact with the skin, like makeups and cosmetics that can further irritate around the pore, drive more inflammation, and lead to more proliferation of those skin cells and more comedone formation. That is why some makeup, for whatever reason, can trigger comedone formation in people. It is called comedogenic. Now, side note, you guys ask me all the time, what ingredients should we be looking for in makeup that won't clog pores, that is not going to flame acne or cause comedones? And to be honest with you, there is no magic ingredient list for makeups. Makeup, foundation, blush. But people with acne and people who form comedones and have comedonal lesions, they also have that barrier defect that I mentioned. And they also have a lot more inflammation under the skin, and so that makes their skin hyper irritable to cosmetics and things. It's not necessarily a culprit ingredient or list of ingredients to avoid. It can be anything, and who is going to be bothered by what ingredient is very difficult to predict. Ingredients that commonly do exacerbate comedonal acne in predisposed individuals include yellow dyes and red dyes. So one type of makeup that can really be a problem and definitely cause comedonal acne is blush and lipsticks around the eyes. Anything with pink and red pigments in it that are labeled red dye, yellow dye. Carmine, however, is thought to be okay, and carmine, which is also a red pigment, seems to be okay. Another ingredient that has been associated with flares of comedones is isopropyl myristate. That has been associated with it. That being said, many people with acne use isopropyl myristate containing ingredients, compounds, moisturizers with no problem. So I'm not convinced that ingredient is necessarily the one to avoid, but it has been reported to irritate the pilosebaceous unit and potentially exacerbate comedonal acne, comedonal lesion formation. I mentioned dyes and I mentioned isopropyl myristate, but another cosmetic ingredient or cosmetic that has been associated with triggering comedonal acne in people who are predisposed to it are the use of pomades in the hair. So greasy pomades specifically in the hair. Again, like makeup, I can't give you a list of hair safe and hair unsafe ingredients to pursue, but hair styling products, hair gels, hair mousses, they can leave a residual on the skin that irritates that pore, and that irritation can kick off more of the pore follicle cells proliferating and getting sticky and plugged up in there. So be aware of whatever you're putting in your hair. If you are getting bouts of comedonal acne, particularly on the forehead, the sides of the face where your hair touches, that you might want to dial back on some of your hair care product use. Less is always more in this case. And as in anything in dermatology, the stuff that you're putting on your skin, on your hair, less is more. The fewer things you're putting on, the better. It's really hard to go nailing down if it's a particular ingredient, or really just that, you know, your skin is sensitive to these ingredients, and sensitive in a way that leads to formation of closed comedones and acne-like lesions. Outside of makeup and stuff that you're putting on your face with these ingredients, the other thing that can definitely trigger a flare of comedonal acne is the use of harsh exfoliants, scrubs, and peels, and cosmetic ingredients that are intended to peel. The reason that this happens is that people who have a tendency to make comedones, they also have an impaired skin barrier that loses water more easily, and as the water evaporates out, the immune system comes in and you get more inflammation and irritation, and that inflammation and irritation kicks up a cytokine milieu that includes things like interleukin-1, and that can further drive the proliferation of those skin cells, the plugging, and the comedone formation. So it's not just the fact that you're, as somebody who makes comedones, you're more sensitive to things that come onto the surface of your face, but you also have to be very, very conscientious that you're not trying to harshly scrub the face, because that trauma, your skin is too sensitive to that trauma and will react by making more comedones. So no harsh scrubs, no peels. It's also important to respect the fact that if you are somebody who makes comedones, there is a good chance that you have what are called microcomedones on areas of your skin that otherwise appear normal, that there is some low level of already pre-plugging that's going on, and there's also low level of some pre-existing inflammation that you wouldn't see in the skin of somebody who does not suffer from comedones. So be aware that that is lurking there under the surface of your skin, and that doing things like wearing a lot of makeup, putting things on your face, scrubbing the face, irritating the face, trying to peel, this can bring all of that out. And a lot of people refer to it as purging. It's not necessarily purging. Some of that may resolve on its own if you didn't do anything to it. It's an irritation that occurs on the skin. So avoid, trying to scrub the skin, peel skin. That's why I've always said that scrubs are not helpful. Whether it be from a face wash that has scrub particles, bead particles in it, like the St. Ives scrub has, walnut shells, that can definitely trigger comedone formation. As can your spin brushes, your sonic cleansing brushes, and then having microdermabrasion, an office-based procedure. A common adverse effect of microdermabrasion is the eruption of comedones. So if you are somebody who has a tendency to make these, microdermabrasion may not be a cosmetic procedure that you want to go pursuing. It could flare your comedonal acne lesions. But outside of physical exfoliation and makeup and heavy pomades and things that are just irritants to the skin and can drive this, other things that can influence formation of comedones come from your diet. We have mounting and growing evidence that something called insulin-like growth factor, we know drives the production of oil in the skin, and that is elevated in people who consume high sugar diets, high glycemic diets. And specifically, there has been an association between the consumption of skim milk and formation of comedones, or worsening acne, in other words. But in the drugstore, there are many effective products for helping comedones, and for getting them better. I think a mainstay that is very important not to forget is a moisturizer and a moisturizing sunscreen. A moisturizer to wear at nighttime and a moisturizing sunscreen to wear in the daytime. And the reason these two products are important for people with comedonal acne is that people with comedonal acne, as I said, have a skin barrier defect that needs to be strengthened by consistent use of a moisturizer. Also, there is some low-grade inflammation present in the skin at baseline in people with comedonal acne and comedone formation. And that inflammation is elevated on exposure to sun and UV exposure, which can further contribute to the comedone formation. So you need to wear a broad-spectrum moisturizing sunscreen during the day. I will list some of my favorites down below, but that will help to not only protect your skin from the sun and keep the inflammation at bay, but it will also help to keep the skin barrier hydrated throughout the day and to be stronger. And then wearing one at nighttime also is important as you sleep and the skin recovers from the day. That is also an important mainstay. But ingredients that are effective for destroying and or preventing comedones include benzoyl peroxide in a leave-on gel or in a wash form. This is a great ingredient to pursue. Unfortunately, it is very drying and most people cannot stand it. My absolute favorite benzoyl peroxide way to use benzoyl peroxide is in a creamy wash, lathered to the affected area, left in place for a few minutes, and then rinsed off. It should not be used around the eyes because the skin there is very thin. Chances are you are not making comedones on your eyelids. So don't get it anywhere near your eyes, but lathering it to the entire face actually as a field effect, left in place for a few minutes and then rinsed off and followed up with the moisturizer is a good way to use it and tolerate it, and it is very effective. Second ingredient that I am very fond of that can be used in a similar way, either in a wash or can be used as a leave-on spot treatment, is salicylic acid. I will list down below some of my favorite salicylic acid washes and leave-on treatments that can be used to broad areas, if not the entire face, or as a spot treatment for comedonal acne. Salicylic acid, however, is a great ingredient to do this. It concentrates in the oil glands. It has an affinity for the oil glands, exerts control, and is anti-inflammatory. So it hits multiple insults in the pathogenesis of comedone formation. It is a great ingredient. Another ingredient I love is azelaic acid. Azelaic acid is actually safe to use in pregnancy and is an anti-inflammatory compound that can also break up those plugged up pores, those closed comedones. I have a video on azelaic acid, so make sure you check that out if you're at all interested. But I'll list my favorite azelaic acid compound down below. That is very helpful for improving the appearance of pores. Recently, I did a video for you guys on sulfur and some of my favorite sulfur masks, like the De La Cruz one, but sulfur definitely can be helpful in improving closed comedones when used consistently. So that is another ingredient. And then fourthly, retinoids, whether they be prescription like tretinoin or tazarotene, or over-the-counter retinoids like adapalene, brand name differin, are very effective at controlling pores and controlling the formation of closed comedones. I think the take-home tips though for you and things to remember and to respect in your skin are that if you suffer from closed comedones and or acne, you have an underlying skin barrier defect that makes your skin more sensitive to things that you come in contact with on your skin, and your skin reacts to those things by making more comedones. The other thing that is important for you to respect is that sun will drive more inflammation into your skin and further worsen comedone formation. And the third thing that is important for you to respect is that you should not attempt to scrub the daylights out of your skin. You're going to just further worsen that skin barrier and further drive comedone formation. So in the end, less is more. But I hope this video was helpful to you all. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.